My cousin didn't even wait for the dean to finish calling my name. The auditorium was warm with June sunlight pouring through the high windows, dust drifting like tiny gold flecks in the air. Rows of families fanned themselves with printed programs. The smell of fresh flowers mixed with old wood and graduation robes. My heart was beating in that strange, soft rhythm that comes when you're standing on the edge of a moment you've worked years for. But before my shoe touched the first step toward the stage, my cousin shot up from her seat in the third row. She cheated. Her voice cracked through the auditorium like a dropped glass. She cheated her way through college. Every sound vanished. The applause died mid-clap. The air thickened. The dean froze with my diploma halfway extended. Someone coughed, awkward, sudden jolting. And 3,000 eyes turned toward me. Heat rushed up my neck, and for a moment the room blurred into one long smear of faces. The muffled rustle of gowns, the hum of the air conditioner, the soft thud of a program slipping from someone's hand, it all became painfully sharp. I stood there in my cap and gown, hands shaking at my sides. My name is Hannah Cole. I'm 26 years old, and on the day I was supposed to simply accept my diploma and smile for a camera, my cousin decided to publicly rewrite my story in front of everyone who mattered. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts. It means more than you know. I heard my mother's gasp before I saw her expression. Horrified, confused, but not surprised enough for it to hurt less. My aunt, my cousin's mother, whispered something sharply and tugged at her daughter's sleeve, but she jerked away. She cheated, my cousin yelled again. Everyone should know. The auditorium rippled with whispers, soft, acidic, impossible to ignore. I swallowed hard. My cap felt too tight. The stage lights too bright. My breath too thin. A memory drifted in, uninvited but precise. Freshman year. I was studying under the yellow lamp in my dorm hallway, the only place quiet enough to think, when my cousin sent a message. Must be nice having nothing else in life except homework. I'd stared at the screen for a long minute before turning it face down. I didn't argue. I kept studying. Back then, her jealousy was something I tried to tiptoe around, the way you avoid stepping on a loose floorboard that squeaks and wakes the whole house. But jealousy has a way of growing its own limbs when fed for too long. Now here she stood, feeding it the biggest audience she'd ever had. The dean cleared his throat gently from behind the podium. "Miss Cole," he said softly, "you may still come forward." His tone was calm, reassuring even, but his eyes searched mine, asking a silent question. "Do you want to keep walking?" I did. Not because I wasn't shaking. I was. Not because the room wasn't suffocating. It was. Not because the lie didn't sting. It burned. I kept walking because something inside me refused to let her accusation become the final memory of this day. One step. Then another. My heels clicked softly against the polished floor. A low murmur followed me, like a tide pulling back before a storm. My cousin wasn't finished. She stood again, louder this time. "Hannah doesn't deserve that diploma. She copied her capstone. She." The dean lifted a hand, firm but gracious. "That's enough." But she didn't sit. She let out a bitter laugh. "You all love her because she looks accomplished. She's a fraud. Ask her. She won't say a word because she knows I'm right." The silence that followed felt like a physical weight pressing on my chest. For the first time since she stood up, I looked directly at her. Her face, red, trembling, fueled by something deeper than anger, told me everything. This wasn't about cheating. It was about attention. It was about years of being compared. It was about the fact that today the stage belonged to me. And she couldn't stand it. I reached the podium. The wooden edge felt cool under my fingertips. The dean leaned slightly toward me, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you want me to address this? We can pause the ceremony." I shook my head. "I'll handle it." His eyebrows lifted slightly, impressed. He handed me my diploma. My fingers trembled as I took it. Warm stage lights washed over me. The audience waited, breath held, eyes pinned to the girl accused in real time. My cousin was still standing, chest rising and falling too quickly, as if even she couldn't believe the scene she'd created. I turned toward her. Not the crowd, not the cameras, just her. And for a moment the world felt narrowed to the two of us. Then I stepped closer to the microphone. But instead of speaking into it, I leaned toward the dean. Close enough that only he could hear. I whispered 6 quiet words. Words that changed his entire posture. Words that softened the furrow in his brow. Words that made his lips curve into a small, knowing smile. He nodded once, firmly. Then he announced into the microphone, steady, authoritative. Miss Cole's academic record has been reviewed extensively. Her work is authentic, exceptional, and exemplary. The ceremony will continue. A wave of murmurs swept across the auditorium, this time warm, supportive, relieved. My cousin's face drained of color. She sank slowly into her seat, hands shaking, eyes darting around as if searching for anyone who still believed her. No one did. No one would. Not after what happened next. Because the thing I whispered to the dean wasn't a plea, wasn't an explanation, wasn't an excuse. It was a truth so simple, so quietly devastating, that it would unravel everything she had tried to do. And the audience, everyone in that auditorium, was about to watch the consequences unfold. When I stepped back from the podium, the dean's expression had shifted, calm, steady, no longer questioning a single word I'd whispered. He adjusted the microphone, his voice carrying clearly across the hushed auditorium. "We will proceed," he said. A subtle, firm message. Nothing said against her holds weight here. A professor in the front row clapped quietly and then another joined. The applause grew cautiously like a flame catching dry wood. 100 hands, then 1,000. The entire hall echoed with it. But my cousin sat frozen, hands clenched in her lap, eyes shining with the sharp panic of someone whose narrative had slipped through her fingers. I walked back to my seat slowly. Not hiding. Not shrinking. Just breathing in the truth that a public wound didn't have to make me small. When I sat down, my gown rustled softly. The student next to me, Jenna, who I'd studied late nights in the library with, leaned over and whispered, "You didn't deserve that. Your work carried half our class." Her words felt like a balm I didn't know I needed. The kind that settles behind the ribs and eases something too tight for too long. The ceremony continued. Names read aloud, diplomas handed out, camera flashes going off like distant stars. But beneath the celebratory noise, I could feel a tension brewing behind me. My cousin shifted constantly in her seat, her breathing sharp, eyes darting toward the exits, toward her mother, toward me. Every time the dean scanned the crowd, she flinched. He knew. She knew whatever I whispered wasn't small. A memory floated in, quiet, fragile. Sophomore year. I was carrying my laptop into the computer lab, tired from an all-nighter. My cousin walked past me with her friends, laughing too loudly. "Let her work," she joked. "It's the only thing she's good for." Her friends had laughed. She had laughed. I pretended it didn't sting. But sometimes the smallest stings leave the deepest marks. When the final name was called and caps flew upward like a flock of startled birds, the dean stepped away from the podium, straight toward the front row. Straight toward my cousin. I followed his movement with my eyes, my heart beat low and steady now, no longer pounding the way it had when she screamed her accusation. He stopped in front of her, posture tall. "Miss Hale," he said, his tone respectful but unyielding, "a moment please." Her jaw tightened. "I didn't lie," she muttered, but the words lacked conviction. "My office has documentation," the dean replied calmly. "I believe Hannah shared with you years ago that she submitted all her work through proctored systems." Her face paled. Her mother swallowed hard. He continued, "She also informed me just moments ago, quietly, gracefully, that she had filed a formal complaint months ago regarding your repeated attempts to access her drafts and grade reports. IT logs confirm this." A ripple moved through the group around them, shock, disbelief, recognition. My cousin sputtered, "She's framing me." But the dean wasn't angry, just disappointed in the way someone is when finally seeing the whole picture. "Miss Hale," he said, "we have verified academic misconduct on your part, not hers." The room stilled. A few students stepped backward. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. And for the first time since she yelled across the auditorium, my cousin had nothing to say. Nothing to weaponize. Nothing to stand on. Just silence. As graduates streamed out into the sunlight, cameras clicking, families hugging, the dean walked beside me briefly. "You handled that with dignity," he said quietly. I exhaled slowly. I didn't want the ceremony ruined. He smiled, gentle, knowing. "It wasn't. You restored it." We parted ways in the courtyard. The air smelled like cut grass and warm asphalt. A breeze carried bits of confetti across the ground. My cousin approached from behind me, her footsteps uneven on the pavement. "Hannah," she snapped, voice cracking between fury and humiliation, "you had no right." I turned. Not harshly. Not triumphantly. Just directly. "You stood up in front of thousands of people," I said softly, "and tried to take something from me that you didn't earn and couldn't destroy." She blinked rapidly, mascara smudging beneath her eyes. "I didn't think you'd tell him about the logs," she whispered. I shrugged. "I didn't think you'd weaponize a microphone." Her face crumpled. For a second she looked like the 8-year-old girl who used to braid my hair too tight because she wanted hers to look better. "I just wanted someone to notice me," she choked out. I felt the exhaustion of a decade settle low in my chest. "Someone always did," I said. "It just wasn't me you wanted." She shook her head, stepping back as if the honesty physically pushed her. Then she turned and walked away, fast, shoulders tight, her dress swaying behind her like a curtain falling after a scene nobody clapped for. My mother and father walked toward me next. Their smiles were soft, strained, apologetic. My father squeezed my shoulder. My mother touched the edge of my gown with trembling fingers. "We're proud of you," she whispered. "For what I achieved," I asked, "or for what I survived today?" My mother's eyes glistened. "For both," she said. This was the first time they didn't rush to defend her. The first time they didn't ask me to let it go. The first time they saw me as someone who didn't break easily. Maybe that was worth something. Maybe not. But it felt new. Later that evening, after the photos and the hugs and the fading adrenaline, I sat on the campus steps alone. The sunset painted the sky in warm oranges and soft purples. A group of graduates laughed in the distance, caps tucked under their arms, futures glowing just ahead of them. I felt calm. Not victorious. Not vindictive. Just calm. My diploma rested on my lap. My tassel brushed against my wrist in the breeze. I traced the embossed lettering with my thumb. I didn't cheat. I didn't break. I didn't shrink. And when it mattered most, I spoke quietly, honestly, precisely. The dean's smile had said everything. Truth whispers. Lies scream. My phone buzzed once. A message from Jenna. "Proud of you today. You deserved better than what she did." I smiled softly. Closed my phone. Closed the day. If you've lived anything like this, tell your story, and don't forget to subscribe. The campus lanterns flickered on, washing the courtyard in warm gold. Footsteps echoed softly. A breeze lifted my gown. And I understood something gentle, steady, true. Some accusations break. But truth doesn't bend.